Well. 3.5 years of Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles and a sequel being right around the corner. This video is not a farewell nor a send-off to DS1, no. Simply put, this video is for players who are bad at the game and wish to get better. Now, before we begin, I would just like to say, I am not a top player, nor do I claim to be one, nor a semi-top player. I don't give myself any titles. I am simply a competitor who has been competing in this game for years, and I have seen my fair share of Demon Slayer. I've competed in many tournaments, and I've beaten a lot of good players, fought a lot of good players. I've had my fair share of really good placements in tournaments and events. I've made my fair share of money on this game. So I definitely feel like I'm good enough to tell you why you suck at this game. So with that, without wasting any more time, let's get started. Now I'll do this in a theoretical way. I will talk about practical stuff that happens in-game with examples. After you watch this video, I will leave the link to Numbly's channel in my description box. Numbly is a top player, best Zenitsu in the world, and he recently made a video talking about player mentality and difference in playstyles. So I definitely do recommend you go watch that video after this one. But for now, let's get into it. Now, first we'll start off with what are, in my opinion, the 4 most important attributes or qualities that you need to get better in any video game, right? Those are patience, awareness, adaptability, and intelligence. We'll go through them one by one, right? So, let's start with patience. What exactly does patience mean, especially in Demon Slayer? Think, when you've played DS, had there been moments in a game where you've thought, damn, if I just held block a little longer here, I wouldn't have gotten hit. Damn, if I didn't move right there, I could have gotten the punish, I wouldn't have gotten hit. Damn, if only I waited. Damn, if only I waited. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Patience. Demon Slayer is a game that rewards you for being patient and passive. Passive playstyles thrive in Demon Slayer. Defense is a lot more rewarding in Demon Slayer than being aggressive and being on the offensive. So what I'm basically telling you is to not be so active as to your opponent is playing solely off of reacting to what you're doing. Rather, DS is a turn-based game. Take turns being on the offensive and defensive, depending on your resources, your game plan, your mentality. Just take a moment in those little spots, those situations in the game where you would just say, fuck it, we ball, and start cheesing or throwing out skills. I want you to take a little bit of time there to think, what if I just hold the fucking block button and shimmy away? Or hold the block button and see what my opponent might do. It sounds very simple, but trust me, it is a pretty fundamental aspect of neutral, right? Those little moments where you would end up just blindly throwing out skills and panic anyway. When you wait out and be collected and calm in those moments, patiently wait, see what your opponent might do, play the neutral game a little longer, you might just come out on top. Now, let's move on to awareness. What exactly do I mean by awareness, especially in Demon Slayer? Awareness means being aware of everything that is happening on your screen. Not just the combat, the characters flying around, the skills being thrown. No. I want you to be aware of your health bar, your opponent's health bar, the resources you have and the resources your opponent has. Look at the special bar, look at the skill gauge, look at the assists, and look at the health. And I'm not telling you to just keep your eyes on the resources or the health bars and not play the game. No, I want you to keep looking at your resources and your opponent's resources and the health gauges whilst you're playing. And it may not seem like a big significant detail, but knowing how many resources your opponent has, if they have a sub, an assist, it could really help you predict what play they might make or plan ahead for whatever play they might make next. I'm not telling you to use your intuition in every situation and just wing it. No, no, no. I'm telling you to take their resources into consideration and plan your approach accordingly to their resources, their health, and the way they play, of course. Awareness also means being ready for whatever might happen on the screen. Prime example, your opponent's got you in a combo, you're about to die, but the combo drops. You can punish your opponent, but you're just sitting there like a dumbass holding the block button. But if you were actively engaged and aware of everything on your screen, you might just catch that one moment where your opponent might fuck up and you can capitalize off that and get the win and get a punish if the combo drops, if they make a mistake. Now, let's move on to adaptability. What do I mean by adaptability? Now, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll explain it, right? I'll give you an example of myself. Until quite recently, my main game plan going into a game was to grab my opponent, make them uncomfortable holding block, just have them on their feet moving all the time. And if I were to whiff a grab or I were to get punished on a grab, my game plan would collapse. I'd start panicking and just playing really bad. Now, if you have a certain play style and you get countered off that play style, you run into a player who just counters your play style, you don't change your play style, you're gonna lose. So, what do? You adapt. You adapt to your opponents so they can adapt to you. In a fighting game, in any game, you have to be able to switch up your playstyle, because if something's always repetitive, always the same, even the worst player will catch on to it and adapt to it. So you have to keep switching up your playstyle, mixing things in as to not get repetitive and adapt. When you are in a losing matchup, when you are losing, you need to see what your opponent is doing. You have to adapt to it. For example, you go into a set with Mass Crew expecting a Tengen ED Zen, but surprisingly Mass pulls out a Sousa game 1. Now, your entire game plan was for the Tengen ED Zen. Now, you don't really have a game plan. What do? You have to adapt to the Sousa. Even if you're not well versed in the matchup, you have to adapt to it. Adaptability is really self-explanatory. If I keep saying it, I'll just keep going in a circle. Just adapt. Learn from your mistakes. Learn from what's happening on your screen. See, register, recognize, switch. And now that brings us to our last factor, intelligence, or IQ. Now, by IQ, I don't mean game knowledge. No, pretty different. Game knowledge just comes from you playing the game, knowing all the facts about the game, the frame data, everything, this, that, yada, yada. No, I'm talking about game sense, right? IQ, you could have all the knowledge in the world about the game, but if you don't know how to implement that knowledge in real-time situations while playing the game, you're fucked. You need IQ. You need to be smart as to whatever you know about the game, what you know about the situation you're in while playing the game, you have to use that accordingly. An example of IQ, say your opponent just whiffed the heavy. Now, you could dash them. They're gonna parry. So you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna dash and grab them. But if your opponent's good enough, they know that, so they're just gonna shimmy away. They could switch and mash, switch and throw out a skill. So you're getting baited in that situation. Now, whether you take the bait or not, whether you dash mix, try to go in with an assist, just not taking the bait, being smart enough to know that that is a losing exchange. That is purely what IQ is. Knowing the game and knowing how to use your knowledge of the game accordingly. That is pretty much what IQ is. It comes from experience. Playing the game enough will give you natural game sense, how the game works, how exchanges are gonna go, whether it's gonna go in your favor or not. You don't always take a fight. You need to pick and choose your fight, especially when you always have different levels of resources mid-game. For example, if you have no assist and 1 bar for skill, you're not gonna fight your opponent there who has both of his assists and like a full 5 stack on blue meter. No, you're gonna play passive, wait until your resources come back, and then try to take your turn back. Just avoid taking the biggest hit of damage while your opponent has higher resources. You're not always gonna fight him. Okay, now we have, say, some personal advice that I've gotten from players, that I've given to players. Right, play against players better than you. I think this is pretty simple. Everyone knows this. To get better at a game, you have to fight people who are better than you. You won't learn anything from somebody who's the same skill level as you, and you won't learn anything from anyone who's worse than you. You have to fight against somebody who's even just a little bit better than you for yourself to get better. Then, flexibility. You have to be flexible in the way you play the game, right? A lot of players, myself even, hang on to one style of playing, one game plan, and when that doesn't work, start panicking, mind gets fucked, you lose, right? You need to be flexible and flow, because your opponent's not always going to let you play the way you want to play the game, right? The game's all about taking control of every exchange and controlling the pace. Sometimes your opponent might be better than you at controlling the pace of the game. You have to be flexible and you have to switch up your playstyle accordingly. Basically, always have a plan B and be willing to play on your opponent's pace if you need to. Another piece of advice, watch WODs. With Demon Slayer, there's been so many tournaments, so many sets, and the WODs for these tournaments and sets are so easily findable. Like, they're everywhere. You could hop on Twitch, you could hop on YouTube. It's like a treasure trove of game knowledge. With the best players in the world competing, what could you not learn from watching that? Me personally, I would definitely recommend every player going into DS2 to watch the Blood Moon Brawl Finals, Ultimate Burst 2, recent tournaments, Blade Breaker 4, Blade Breaker 3, just tournaments where the best players compete, and just a lot of knowledge to be taken from that going into the second game, because some aspects of the game may be changing, but neutral never changes. Which brings me to my last point of the video. The most important aspect of not only Demon Slayer but any fighting game. Neutral and footsies. Now, I think we all know what neutral and footsies are. If you don't, well, of course you don't. You're fucking ass at the game. My fault. So, neutral and footsies. Movement, mobility, considering your options, and spacing. When all of that comes together and all the aspects I explained to you throughout the entire video, when you bring all of that together into a fighting game, that is what neutral is, right? Using attacks at different ranges, pokes, while moving, always considering all of your options while being diverse with your approach, trying to get a hit on your opponent, controlling the space around you, that is what neutral is. Now, you can only be so good at a game by cheesing and exploiting the game, using broken characters and broken mechanics. But at the end of the day, real skill is raw neutral. Whoever can play neutral the best, whoever plays footsies the best, just wins, right? So for you to be good at Demon Slayer, you have to master neutral. It's the most fundamental aspect of any fighting game. And with that, we've reached the conclusion of the video. I've told you everything I felt like is important to know to be better at not only Demon Slayer but any fighting game, right? And well, we're only a couple days away from Demon Slayer 2 now. I really look forward to a new era. I'll be there competing as always, and I look forward to new players, a new generation of players, and I am excited, and I really do hope that this video has helped someone, anyone, to get a little bit better at the game. And with that, well, bye.